Hello, welcome. This is the hot part of the Better Data Viz series, hot for hands-on training. So there is an exercise file that you can get from this QR code. There are a bunch of files there, but there's only one Excel file called the practice file. So we're going to attempt to make 4 different charts. First, we'll look at sparklines and indicator dots. Then we'll try to make lollipops, not compounding charts, lollipop charts. Then we'll look at some diverging bar charts. And we'll conclude with small multiple bars. So there is an exercise file you can download. It's an Excel file. And hopefully you can generate the same charts on your end. So we'll go slowly so to make sure everybody can do the same. So last time we did slope graphs. In the Excel file, actually, I'm going to, you guys good with the URL?
Let me just.
OK, I'll give you 1 more minute. OK, so if you open the Excel file, there are different tabs. So the first one is the slope graph that we did last time. We're going to jump to the next tab, which is a sparkline. So these are this files is from the book by Stephanie Evergreen. So the book came with the exercise file, so I just downloaded it from their website. And then the book has instructions on how to make charts. So in this hypothetical data set, so let's say, and this is interestingly pertinent to us in education. So let's say this is student data. So no student name, so this is made up. So imagine student ID, 1, 2. We have 28 students here. Each row is a different student, and we have grades for homework 1, homework 2. Then there is a first exam. Then there is a homework 3. There is a group project, and then there is homework 4. OK, so we want to see what we can do. So one thing, and then for simplicity, let's assume all these assignments have equal weight for the final grade. So first, I'm going to calculate average, right? So I'm just going to put the equal sign and type average. And then tab. And then you can just select all these data points. So I just selected homework 1, homework 2, first exam, homework 3, group project, and homework 4. And then click the check mark. And then it will calculate the average for you, again, assuming equal weight. I don't like all these decimal points, so I'm going to get rid of the decimal points. So in the ribbon, under numbers, you can click this arrow to the right on the decimal to get rid of the decimal points. So I'm just going to bring it to whole number. And then if you just double click the lower corner of this will, or you can just drag it down to copy the formula. So now I have the average for all of the students here in this data set. Now the question is, what can we do with some data visualizations, right? So one idea is, so 2 things we're going to try here is, one is sparklines. So I'm sure you've already seen sparklines. So, and then the second thing is indicator dots. So Indicator dots would be helpful, like if I want to really highlight the students who are failing, for example, right? And then perhaps if someone is borderline, we can have like a second indicator. But you can do as many as you want. But the whole principles of data visualization is to minimize as much as possible so that you can highlight the things that you're trying to show people. I'm going to put a trend line in the column H. So I'm just going to label this trend. I want to show trend, because, we're assuming that these things happen chronologically. So homework 1 happened first, then there was homework 2, then there was a first exam or midterm, if you will. Then homework 3, then group project, then homework 4. So I'm just going to type trend. And then you can place your cursor in this first cell. And then you're going to go to Insert. And you will see that there's a whole group here called Sparklines. And then there are like lines, there are columns, there is win-loss. I'm going to click on line. And then it will ask you, there will be a box, a pop-up box that will ask you for data range. So I'm going to, again, the same way that we did the average, I'm just going to choose all of this. I want to, for the first student, okay? So that chooses the cells B2 through G2 for the data range. And then you don't have to do the location range because that's where we clicked initially. But then you click OK, and that's what the Sparkline looks like, okay? So it shows you kind of, so this is supposed to help, like as opposed to reading all these numbers one by one for each student, it kind of shows you a trend, like was the student progressing throughout these assignments, and then did they drop somewhere? So it kind of makes it visualize better. Because it's inside the cell, if you want, you can make this bigger. So you can play with this to get the visual just the way you want. Let's see. And then I'm going to, again, drag this down to repeat this for the rest of the students here. So you drag it down, and so you get all these spark lines for all students, right? So you can kind of see like where students started and where they landed at, throughout the semester or throughout the course, right? Now, if you click it, now the entire row is like one unit as a spark line. So now you get the Sparkline tab at the top. So now you can play with things. If you wanted to change the colors, you can. You can do a bunch of interesting things. One that's interesting is you can show certain things. So if you wanted to highlight the low point, if I click low point, now you see those red diamonds showing up. It kind of highlights visually where students performed worse. So that might be of interest. You can actually show all of the data, but then this is too much. Like if you click markers, it's going to highlight. I don't see a point in it. So I think in this case, probably low point. If you wanted the high points, you can too. But I think in general, people are more interested in the low points if you want to see which exams they needed help. Let's see, what else can we do here? And then this is a line. Alternatively, you could have done the column too. So the column, it looks like this. Whatever helps you with your report. But technically, a sparkline is supposed to be a line. And the win-loss doesn't work here. Win-loss works only if your outcome is like a binary. You say yes or no. So it's either a win or loss. But since this is a continuous numeric variable, it's not going to work. So either column works or line works. So that's the first word for the sparkline. Were you guys able to get the sparklines that looks like this? Yes? And you can change the colors. There are some default colors you can use, but you can also go and change marker colors if you wanted to. You can change the color for specific, low points or all the markers. You can change the actual sparkline color. So if you want, you can play with that. Let's do green. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to show you indicator dots. Indicator dots, I think, the same with Sparklines. I think usually they're underutilized, right? So you may have seen it every now and then, but you add it to a table, it makes the table much more exciting, than just the raw numbers. Now I'm going to go into the average. So the indicator dot, essentially next to these numbers, I'm going to show like something that can highlight, if somebody's failing, okay? So the way it works is that we've already calculated the average. I'm going to click on the first one, and then I'm going to go under Home tab. So we're already under the Home tab, and then there are conditional formatting. So you want to click the conditional formatting, and it will give you a menu. And then I'm going to add a new rule. When you click new rule, there are different options. Sorry if this is too small, I cannot make this bigger. But essentially, the type, it's defaulted to lowest, the format style is defaulted to a 2-color scale. So if you open that, you have several options. So you can have a 3-color scale. So this is essentially what it would do is that it will format the cell based on the values in a, in a gradient type of color. But that's not what I want. I actually want an icon. So there's an option. Last one is icon sets. So if you choose that, then you can do some interesting things here. So next, it gives you the icon style. So the default is the classic traffic light colors, red, yellow, green, right? Which, if you want to increase accessibility, so if you consider people who are colorblind, is not the best thing to do for data visualization. So you usually want to, default to a couple of colors that if you were to see it in black and white, it would be, easy to distinguish between the two. So, if you want to increase accessibility. But anyway, so if you open this, your options are, because you cannot just do anything you want. They give you a set number of things in here. So there are like arrows here. The circles are there, and then there is a 4-color option. So if you don't like the traffic lights, there's even a 4-1. So let's just play with the ones that's already selected with the 3 dots, because they all work the same way. So the way it works is that it's 3 dots. That means there are 3 conditions in order to decide each cell whether it's going to get a green dot or a yellow dot or a red dot, right? So because we're looking at student data, I want, let's say I don't want 3. I only want 2 dots, right? Because 3 is too much. I don't care about 3. I only want to look at students who are failing and students who are borderline. So for the first one, if you click the green, you can actually set it to no cell icon. So if you do that, nothing's going to show up. So now I'm only thinking about 2. Or if you wanted to do 1, you can also do this with the next one too, and then you only get 1 dot, right? But I'm going to show you 2 dots. So then for the yellow one, it's going to be set at, I'm going to say if the value is greater than 70. So we consider 70 a passing grade. So if I simply put 70 here, and the first one is irrelevant because we said no cell icon. But if I set the yellow to greater than 70, then the red one, you don't have to do anything. Then it assumes if it's less than, well, actually, I'm going to do 69 because, or alternatively, you can say greater than or equal to 70. So, so then the red, by default, it becomes, if it's less than 70, it's going to show as a red dot, right? You guys following? Yeah. Then click OK. OK, I'm just going to. It just gave me an error because the first one doesn't make sense with the second one. I'm just going to make the first value as a 80. Again, that's irrelevant because no icon is going to show up. So I'm just trying to make this Excel happy. But anyway, you press OK. And then I double click the corner, and it's going to show you all these colors, right? So let's look at some examples. So the first one is 69 now. So obviously this student failed, right? So it showed the red dot next to it, right? So if you quickly eyeball through this, you see all the red dots. You see how many students have failed. So, so this example is ridiculously high number of students failing. So don't be alarmed by that. But I mean, you should be alarmed if these are real data. The ones that don't have anything, those are students that are not borderline and did not fail. Alternatively, we could have left the green there, and the green dot would have showed up here, but then we didn't. If you weren't going to do anything with those students, it's best to leave it alone. And then the yellow part is the one that's borderline. Since I called it borderline, actually, let's go back. I see what I did wrong. So if I go back, so I don't want to create a new rule. So I want to manage the rules. Since I already created the new rule, I'm going to click Manage Rule, and what we did is already there. So I'm going to click on it and click Edit Rule, so you can modify it. So I want the ones that are borderline be between 70 and 79. So I'm actually going to set this at 79. So now I'm going to press OK. Let's see. I think I messed it up. Sorry, the colors didn't change. Let me do this again. So if I do icons, we did if it's greater than 70, and then we'll say 80. But anyway, so these are the indicator. That's how you get indicator dots and trend lines. Did you guys get the same? Now, if you only wanted the indicator dots and not the value, all you have to do is change the color to white if you want to hide, because there has to be a value in that cell for the indicator dot to show up. But if you only wanted the dot and not the text, the trick is to just change the color. So the text is still there, but anyway, what question do you guys have about trend lines and indicator lights? Had you used them before? Indicator lights, trend lines? You've used trend lines, that's good. I know if you were to resize the rows, the trend line adjusts to it, so you can play with it to get the right shape. Okay, so let's go to the Lollipop tab now. So if you go to the Lollipop tab, Now let's assume that raw data is only the first two columns, A and B. So I added C and D, right? So normally you will not have C and D because the C and D is the trick to be able to do a lollipop. So let's say your data is just the column A and B. So essentially you have a bunch of categories and then a number in front of it, right? And then you want to plot this. So what you normally do is, if you were to select your data, so most people will just go to the bar chart, right? So you can either do column charts or bar charts. So column ones are vertical, bar charts are horizontal, right? So because we have a lot of categories, I'm going to do the horizontal one just to, it becomes easier to read. So that's what you get. So that's the default that you get, right? So it shows you like you can compare, and this is already sorted in order of highest to the lowest, right? So the graph looks nice because they're all, because if it's not sorted, then it becomes difficult to compare, right? Because each line will be different. You have to jump back and forth. So it's usually good to sort these before you plot it so that you can easily compare. But anyway, so this is what most people would do. So if you want your chart to stand out, an alternative is a lollipop. So a lollipop is essentially the same thing. It's a line, but there is a circle at the end of it, so it looks like a lollipop, right? And you can do this vertical or horizontal. But because it's not default, so most people would not think of a lollipop because you don't see a chart called lollipop. So it's you gotta do some trick. So here's what I would do. So the way to do it is actually create a scatter plot. So, and because scatter plot, you have one variable on the x-axis, kind of like, here on the x-axis we had the actual numbers, percentage of respondents. But on a scatter plot on your y-axis, you also need a numerical variable. So you cannot just have name of categories. So that's why the trick is to add another column and just call it like whatever you want, lollipop spacing. And these numbers don't mean anything other than it's just because the scatter plot needs a number. So we have 21 categories, so I just put 1 through 21 because there are 21 categories. So there's not much to these numbers other than it helps you create a scatter plot. So you can choose these columns and insert a scatter plot. So if you go under insert, under charts, there is the very last one is a scatter plot, and you just do a normal scatter plot. Actually, I see what I did wrong. Don't choose all of your data. Only choose the two columns B and C. So you only want to your x-axis will be the percent respondents, and your y-axis will be the lollipop spacing, and then we'll add the categories as a label. That's how it works. Okay, so let me go insert again and add just a regular scatter plot, and this is what you get, right? So here's a scatter plot. But if you were to imagine a line from the y-axis to the dot, those are what we had on the previous chart, right? And there are no labels for the categories. So we just have to do a few tricks. So the first thing I'm going to do, because we're going to draw horizontal lines, I don't like the horizontal grid line. So if you just click the grid lines and click delete, that way it's, now you have some space to work with. So I just deleted the horizontal grid lines. You can just click on it and click delete. Right? If you click the wrong thing, it will delete the wrong thing, which is okay. Just do Control Z, or is it Command Z on to undo? Yeah. Okay. So I got rid of the horizontal grid line. Next, we're gonna go under. So assuming you have selected so make sure this object is selected, right? So you get the chart design tab show up. So on the chart design, we're going to add a chart element. So you see at the very end, there is a add chart element. You click it, and there is a error bars. So you want to add error bars. We'll just add, actually, let's go to more error bars option at the very end. And it will create this mess. You guys got the same mess? Yeah, OK. So let me zoom in to see what's going on. So it's showing you, because there are two variables here, technically, one on the x-axis and one on the y-axis. That's what the circles were, right? Each dot on the scatter plot. It's showing you, like, with the line, it's showing you the error, right? So like percentage error. So it's doing you a vertical one and a horizontal error, right? So first of all, we don't care about the vertical one. So just click on the vertical one and delete it. So I just deleted the vertical one. So now I just have a horizontal line. You guys following? Right? So got rid of the vertical error bar. Now, with the horizontal bar, we're going to make sure that it doesn't go past the dot, because we're trying to create a lollipop that starts from the y-axis and goes all the way to the dot. So you can right-click this and click on the very last option, which is Format Error Bars. And this will give you this panel on the right-hand side, right? This panel on the right-hand side. And you can see that the horizontal option direction is both. And that's not what we want. So you only want it, click on the minus. So it only shows it on the left-hand side of the dot, right? So it doesn't go to the right-hand side. So I click that, so it's only to the left-hand side. And there, the end style, it has a cap. I don't want a cap, so click on no cap. It's over here. So now it got rid of that line at the beginning, or the cap, right? So there is no cap. And there, on the error amount, which is defaulted to fixed value at 1, I want to change it to percentage and keep this at 100%. So I'm just going to type 100. And then it goes, when you do that, now you get a bar that starts from the y-axis and goes all the way to the dot. So there are your lollipops now, right? So this is, nothing default in Excel will lead to this, so you just have to play with these scatter plots and make it look like a lollipop. So now that you have your lollipops, now you can do a bunch of things with it, right? First of all, those numbers that we have on the y-axis mean nothing to us. 5, 10, 15, 20, right? We made those up. We actually want to see those categories. So that was the trick to get the scatter plot to work. So now we need to get the labels there. So first of all, because we only had 21 items here, looks like, just to fix the spacing here, looks like the y-axis is going all the way to 25. So if I right-click on the y-axis and click on Format Axis, which is the very last option. And then what you want to do is change the maximum. The reason it goes all the way to the 5, because the maximum is set to 25. So we have 21, so I'll just choose 22 just to give enough room, but not too much empty space up there. So I'm just going to change the maximum to 22, and it pushes everything up. So it's a little nicer, so you don't have wasted space up there. So you would have to do this before, because I'm about to delete the y-axis, but if you were to do adjustment, you got to do all the adjustments before you get rid of the y-axis, right? Because once you delete the y-axis, then you can't change the maximum. So if you want to move these, so like if you want to move it down, I can totally type 30 here, and it will move it down. But you have to do this before you get rid of the y-axis. So I'm going to choose 22 here. Next, I also see the minimum goes all the way to -3. That makes no sense. So I'm going to change that to 0. So now it looks like this, right? So we fixed the maximum and minimum. Now I can delete the y-axis. So make sure you click on the y-axis and just click delete, and the y-axis is gone now. Now, in order to add a label here, we need to create another column. So that's why there is column D, just called the labels, and it has 0 for all of them. Essentially, because this is a scatter plot, and I'm about to plot the labels here, that 0 just means the x value 0, which would land at the very beginning of each bar. That's what those zeros mean. So this is just a trick to get the scatter plot to work. So these are already entered into the cell values for the labels. So what we're going to do, I'm going to click the chart again, and we're going to add the way we add it is you right-click it, and you click on select data. Where is select data? Right here. So it's kind of in the middle. You have to scan through and click select data. So when you click on select data, you get a pop-up window. It's showing you what's already in the scatter plot, which we had the lollipop spacing is what we had plotted. We're going to add another one. So if you click add, and then another window comes up, you want the series name. For series name, you're going to choose the column header. So don't choose the entire column. I'm just going to click on labels. So make sure you had clicked in the box that's series name, and then you click on the cell that says labels. Then I'm going to click inside the box that says series X values, and then I'm going to select all of the cells with the 0, right? So if I just select all of these zeros, that gets selected here. And then the third box already has a value in there. Make sure you delete that first. And then you want to choose the lollipop spacing numbers. So in there, I'm going to choose the spacing number cells. So select all those numbers from 1 to 21. And that goes into the third box. And then when you press OK, it will go to the previous window, and then you can press OK again. So what you will get is a new set of dots. So you see all these dots showed up now? That's what we just plotted. So that's why it were all zeros, because it's on the 0 value on the x-axis, and then we use these numbers 1 through 21 just because we have 21 categories. And the reason we put these dots here, this is just a trick to put a label there, right? And then we're going to get rid of it, because that dot means nothing other than we're just going to use it as a trick to put a label there, because you need a label for each line. So what we do next is first we're going to create space for the label. So actually, let me zoom out. So you see, like when the whole graph is selected, you see how there is this box around it. If you click again inside it, you're going to get the second box selected, right? You need to do that because we need to drag this to the right to make room for our labels. So you see, I just dragged it to the right. Now I have some room for my labels. If you need more room, you can drag it even more. I don't know how much room we need. This is fine. OK, so now I have room for the labels. Next, we're going to add the labels. So we're going to add the labels to those new dots. So you right-click on those, and let's see, right-click on the new set of dots and select Add Data Labels. Make sure the dots are actually selected. So select the dots first, then right-click, and then add data labels in the menu. You guys see it here. So now the labels show up, right? So these are those fake numbers that we created 1 through 21. That's a terrible label, right? So what we do, but it's OK, because we're using it as a trick to get the label that we want. So now you can select the label. So just select one of them, and it will select all of them. And you right-click it, and then choose the last option, which is Format Data Labels. When you do that, the panel to the right-hand side switches to all the options for the labels. And this is what we can do some magic. So you can see that by default, it's showing you the Y values, which is the lollipop labels. Don't uncheck that yet, right? Because if you uncheck that, it will just go away. So before you uncheck that, you want to check value from cells. So which is the very first box. So when you click that, it will say, OK, which cells. So now this is where we go. Make sure you are clicked inside the box, and then go and choose all those values for the topping. So those are the actual labels. So if you just select all of that, and then press OK, now you see all those labels that we actually want is showing up next to the ones that we don't want. So because we don't want those, now you can uncheck the Y values. And you only have those correct labels. Now they're in a terrible place. So we need to change the position. So you see, if you go further down in the Format Data Labels pane in the right-hand side, by default, it's on the right-hand side. So you just click left, and it will go to the left-hand side. OK, so that was the trick to get the labels in. But now we don't need those dots. So the dots that were there, if I click the dots and right-click and choose the last option, which is Format Data Series, the options in the right-hand side will change. So click the paint bucket, which is fill and line. So if you click the paint bucket, then select marker under it. So there is marker here. And then once you click marker, under marker options, choose none. So you have to open marker options under it and click none. And then all those will go away. So if I click outside of it, now you have lollipops with the correct labels. So see, this is essentially the same as this, but it kind of looks nicer, right? Or unique, right? So if you wanted it to be. I mean, it's a little more work, but you can. Here's one more thing that you can do about it. If you wanted to show the actual values for each, you can actually put it inside the circle. So the circle will look nice. So here's how we do it. So now click the dots on the right-hand side, and then right-click and go to Format Data Series. And then if you, let's see. If you click the paint bucket again and go under marker, you can change the width. So if you, let's see, it's by default is on 0.75. Let's try 3 or 5. I'm going to try 5. So you see, like, you can make the dots bigger. So you can go as big as you want if you want to show a number in there. You can also resize it to make it look better. Let's see, I'm going to use 5 points. OK, so the circles are bigger. And next, we can add values as a label. So if you just right-click it, you can add data label. And it's showing you those numbers, right, 1 through 21. That's not what I want to show. So if you click the labels and go to Format Data Label, by default, it's on the Y values, which is 1 through 21. That's not what I want. So just change that to the X value. So check X value and uncheck Y value. And now you get all those numbers, right? And then it's to the right-hand side. If I wanted it inside the circle, you just click center. Now it goes inside the center. You can use usual text formatting to make the size smaller, just so it would fit into the circle, or you can make the circle bigger. You can change the color if you want. And we'll add it. I also want the lines. So if you click the lines, you can also play with the lines. So if I make that bigger, I'm going to go to size 2. There you go. So I zoomed in a little bit. But you can change the colors to whatever you want. So now you have a lollipop. So I made the line. I increased the width a little bit, so it looks a little more like lollipop. But you have a circle at the end, and you have the actual value inside. And since we have the actual value inside, that means you probably don't need those vertical grid lines anymore. So I'm actually going to delete the vertical grid lines so it looks cleaner. And this is probably the type of chart you see in like fancy magazines and, right, like The Economist. They make good data visualization. But anyway, so it's the same data as what we did initially with the bar chart. What do you guys think? Like lollipops? No lollipops? Yeah, you can also do this vertical. It's the same steps if you were to do a column chart, but you do have to start with the scatter plot, which it's not intuitive. Nobody would think of scatter plots to get to this type of chart, and Excel doesn't make it clear. You just have to know the tricks. Okay, so I think we have probably time for one more. So next one is the back-to-back or diverging chart. This one I found a lot of utility in it because you can do a lot with this. So this is simple data. So let's say we have 2 groups, comparison and group that received treatment. And We have 8th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade, whatever they're measuring. I don't know what they're measuring, but it doesn't matter because we often encounter like, your, let's say vaccines. You have comparison and vaccine, and then, one would be like a side effect, one would be, efficacy. You can have like different measurements. So you can plot things like this. So most people would just select this, right, and insert a bar chart, right? You're comparing two groups or two categories, right? So most people would do this, right? That's the default. We have seen this, like if you look at resident research every year, you see a lot of this chart because it makes sense, two comparisons. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we can do better. Or you might see, what's the alternative? If instead of, that was the column, you can also do the bar version. So the bar version is down here. So if you do the bar version, it's the same thing, but horizontal, right? So these are your default option. And I think I see most people do the vertical one, right? But anyway, these are the defaults that are intuitive in Excel. So what you can do is that show them side by side instead, back to back. And in order to do that, you need some trick. So what you need is that you need to create some fake data first. So I'm going to add a column here. I'm just going to call this the C buffer. You just need some buffer space in order to make this work. And I'm going to call this another column to the right-hand side. We'll call this the T buffer for treatment. Now, when I click this, these are set up as percentage. So the cell type for these data is in percentage. So I'm going to make sure that these are also in percentage. So you just have to click the percentage sign at the top. And then here as well. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set an equation. I'm going to say 1 minus this cell. In other words, it needs to add up to 100%. However, you don't type 100 because the cell format is in percentage. So if you put 1, it knows that you're talking about 1%. So this equals 1 minus this cell, and you press the check mark, and it gives you 70%. So in other words, 70 plus 30 is 100%. So that's good. And I'm going to drag this to replicate it for the other two cells. I'm going to do the same thing for the T buffer. I'm going to say equals 1 minus this cell, and replicate it. OK. Now, again, I'm going to actually dim this just to emphasize that this is not, these are fake data that we don't want to show. This is secret, okay? The actual data is what's black, right? We're just using this as a trick to make a diverging bar, okay? So once you set this up, now we're good to go. So you go and insert, make sure you select the entire thing. Make sure you select the entire data set. And then you insert, we go in, instead of the ones that we chose, so initially we had chosen the basic column. Instead, we're going to do a 100% stacked bar. So go to the second type, but the very last one. So you see how it says that very last one is 2D bar, 100% stacked. So you click that. And that's what you get, right? Does it look much better? No, it looks terrible right now. We need to fix it. So the very first thing we need to, because this makes no sense right now. So what we need to do first is switch row and column. So the very under chart design, you click switch row and column. When you click that, now it makes more sense because now the numbers are showing up at the bottom on the x-axis, and you have your categories in the y-axis, right? Now, we're going to hide the fake data we just created. So if you click the first set, which is the C buffer, all you have to do is change the color. So in the right-hand side, you just change the color to white, so it goes away. Oh, sorry, that was the border. Let's try again. So you just click the first set. It should select all three. If you click too much, it will just select a single one. So don't click too much. Just click enough so that the three of them that are light blue are selected. And then you can, let me see what I did here. If the right pane is not there, you can right-click it and go to Format Data Series. Then click the paint bucket and change the color to white. So change the color to white, and that's how you hide it, right? Then the next one, the second set, is actually what we wanted. The comparison is the 30, 34, 37. The third one is what we wanted, is treatment. The fourth one is the T buffer, so we need to hide that too. So you select that one and change the color to white as well. So now what you have is back to back, right? So before here they were like side by side. Here they are back to back, so it's easier to go down and compare like which side is having more, right? So you know, the one that we made, it was fake data just to make this chart work, but now you're hiding it, so you know it's fine. And that's it. And then you just play with it. So you can make some adjustments. So you can get rid of the grid lines. I don't want the grid lines. The vertical grid lines you can delete, so it looks nicer. Now the labels. Well, first of all, if you right-click, because you see these labels to the left are too far from the graph. If you want to remove some space here, you can right-click the x-axis and go to Format Axis, which is the last option, and just change the minimum. So because it's from 0, that's why you have too much space. So just change it to something like 20. I'm going to change it to, and because these are in percentage, you just have to type 0.2. So 0.2 is 20%. When I press enter, so you see it moved it to the left. So now you got rid of some of that space that you don't need. And you know, you can change that number to get to the chart that you. So you know, if you want to move this left and right, that's how you move it. And you know, the same with the maximum. If you don't want all that space to the right-hand side, you can change the maximum to. I'm going to try 85%. So I'm going to put 0.85. So it got rid of some of the space in the right-hand side. So you do all of that before you delete the x-axis, because I don't want the x-axis. But if you were to do these adjustments, you need to do that before you get rid of the x-axis. So I'm done with that. So I'm going to delete the x-axis. So it looks nicer now. Now with the y-axis, which is supposed to have the label, I don't like that line next to it. So if you right-click the y-axis and go to Format Axis, then we go to, but first of all, another trick you can do here is, you know how this goes. If you wanted to reverse the order of this, so it goes 8th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade, you can just click categories in reverse. So it goes in reverse. So there was on the right-hand side in the pane, there is an option for categories in reverse. So I just check that. So I just put it in reverse if you need to, you know, depending on your data. And then if you click the paint bucket for fill and line, for line, you're going to choose no line. And that will get rid of that line in the left-hand side. And we'll be done in just a minute. And that's what it looks like. So now you have, you know, side by side. And then, you know, you can add labels if you wanted to next to it. And, you know, the same way we added label to those dots, all you have to do is right-click and then add label, and then you can move them around. And just to show you, so this works pretty well. Our team published a paper, and we use this method that I want to show you. So we published this last year, remdesivir and the liver. We looked at, so remdesivir is a drug. We were trying to see like some of the adverse effects in regards to the liver. And so we essentially looked at studies that have compared remdesivir to, like a control group, like no treatment. And we generated this graph. So you see, this is side by side. So essentially, so AST is a lab marker that shows, liver injury. So we showed on the left-hand side is people who received remdesivir or intervention, and the right-hand side is so. And each row is a different study. So different studies by different authors. We show in each study what did they find. So if you quickly look at it, you can see that, oh, wait a minute. If you think this drug is causing liver toxicity, sounds like people who did not get it had more, right? So if you look at it, you can see that it's kind of shifted overall to the right-hand side. So it can quickly help you compare all the studies. Whereas if you had like side by side, like the default, it makes it a little more difficult. And we did the same with another lab marker, which is ALT. So again, you can see most of them. So sometimes it may not be the same, but you see most of them are tilted to the right. So, but anyway, that's a diverging chart. That's not the default. So most people are not using it, but when you do, you get a unique chart that journals may like. And I think that's all the time we have. What question do you guys have? I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for your time.